Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this key session topic on the role of APIs in evolution of open banking. Let me start this putting few context for our session. Obviously, APIs have been central to the overall financial services evolution over the last few years, driven by things like India Stack, UPI, Aadhaar, and all of that have been instrumental into that. API is obviously, from evolved the banking and financial institutions from being a closed institution to a platform for innovation, connecting not only their internal systems, but also providing opportunity to collaborate with external participants between banks, fintechs, and other participants as well. Obviously, the next evolution in this financial services digital journey is to achieve the open banking aspect of it. Open banking enables the information sharing and creating a platform where more innovative products, better customer experience, and many more things can be achieved. Obviously, open banking also brings its own concerns related to the cyber security, the customer trust aspect of it, and in terms of how do you handle that. In our opinion, obviously, APIs can handle some of these challenges and the opportunities which open banking provides. Um, as at the start of the session, we have got the esteemed panel here. What I understand, two of them have got multiple patents in this space also, as I went through your LinkedIn profile. So we have the right mix of technical and the people who have, in the past have done huge business startups, right? Starting various forms, multi-industry, multi-sector experience. So that's the panel which we have got today to discuss this important topic. Let me start by putting a question to all the panelists. Maybe we will start with Ramkumar and then go in the clockwise for the first question. The first question is how APIs have enabled the development of open banking in India over the last 4-5 years, basically, and what impact open banking ecosystem will have on the overall financial ecosystem. So if may I request Mr. Ramkumar to start.
Yeah, good morning, very good morning to everyone. So I just wanted to start with, like when each of you came into this conference today, already you would have used tens, if not of hundreds of API calls. The payment that you made to the cab, or maybe even a tip that you do, everything is today happening digitally and so seamlessly, and all thanks to the open banking revolution that has happened in the past decade or so. And UPI goes beyond APIs, right? So it is the unified payments interface across all APIs, and that's been a game changer and has put India on top of the world. And we do the most number of digital transactions. And the APIs has enabled a lot of competition to come, right? So even if you take how banks were, maybe 2 decades back, 3 decades back, how the experience was there, just more banks coming into the ecosystem improved the experience so much. And now it's sort of taken to a different level with APIs coming in. I was just seeing that even in last 3 years, right, the number of fintech startups has become 5x, right? There were 2,000 startups in 3 years back, 2021. Now there are 10,000 startups in 2024, and it's going to grow. That much of innovation is happening because of APIs being there, right? So the barrier to entry to be a fintech, barrier to entry to get to use some of the open banking APIs, all of them are lowered. So the competition is better and more innovative products are coming in. And I think we are very, very lucky to be in this time frame in India's growth path. it's reducing the friction in financial transactions, how we make payments, etc. Moving money much more faster and helping our goal of becoming a $5 trillion economy so much more faster, right? They said we'll be there in 2030. Now we are going to get there even earlier. So I think all of this APIs, open banking, UPI, etc., is getting there faster and in a much, much better way.
Sure, thanks Ramkumar. I think fantastic points and good morning everybody. So I would say that from payments bank perspective, if you look at, we cover almost every nook and corner of this country, right? And we work with some of the PPIs, our partners. Of course, the India stack for which we need to integrate with NPCI, with UIDI, etc. Right? Now, if you look at all this setup, these are all on the basis of APIs, right? It will not be possibly an exaggeration to say that APIs, the way it is driving the ecosystem, they have become the backbone, right? So therefore, I would go to the extent to say that the whole business of payment banks, or at least a significant part of it, depends on how we are orchestrating these APIs, either consuming those to get the, the services that you otherwise would have to build yourself, the capabilities that are existing, you are consuming in terms of APIs. The LLM is one of the good examples that everybody gives these days. So you do not have to have a foundational model. You can use somebody's API to basically tag into that services, right? Or any services that you expose yourself so that the partners who are present on the market, they can use your capabilities and serve the better end of the customer. So this is one aspect. Other aspect, if you look at it on the fraud detection and other part of it, mule account prevention, these are becoming very important as the digitalization grew. Along with it, the players who are trying to get a benefit of it, with the malicious intent, that has also grown, right? So the industry partnership in order to prevent fraud, because there was a situation when possibly fraudsters are sharing among themselves, but the industry partners are not, right? So in this context, some of the initiative that MHA, the Ministry of Home Affairs have taken, I4C, if you guys have, I'm sure you will be aware. So the way we are sharing information with them and consuming the information in terms of the suspected fraud, and then we can take some action, either to prevent an account opening, or if the entity is already engaged with us, then maybe prevent the transaction. These are all on the basis of APIs, right? So I would say that going forward, this ecosystem will possibly even improve further. In India, some would argue that we possibly do not have a true open bank. The India stack, however, is based on opening the capabilities so that everybody can join in. Thank you.
Thanks, Pinaki. I think good points. I mean, when you talk about open banking, current state of open banking, I think if I go a little back of how banking has really evolved in India, if you look at 1970s, 80s, computers were first introduced in India. We really got into, computing, what we were doing, at least some of the information started getting into automated in terms of it. 1990s obviously is the time where internet banking came into play. The bank moved from from branches into the homes of people, right? And I think today is the generation of open banking, right? And if the banks don't open up offering these APIs across to enable a lot of customers across, especially in the Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 cities, to reach the financial services, I think that's the era today. Obviously, the India stack has been the backbone to it. What we see in India today is still, I think we have a long way to go, especially in the open banking. And while there have been some steps, especially in banks, to open up APIs across, bring in APIs across, but are we really in the real sense open banking? The answer is actually no. We still have a long way to go. But can we miss this today? Can we miss not getting into this wagon? The answer is absolutely. If we miss this, our ability to evolve, because today's customer, internet banking, brought in customer for him to start accessing banking in a big way. But today, if we don't bring in innovative products, if we don't ensure that those services which are, because it's a generation, we are today in a 10-minute delivery kind of a, age today. Everything has to be instant for us. And in an age like that, if banking remains behind in not offering, services on a much faster mode, we'll all be left behind. So I think there is a huge push to ensure that we really get into open banking in a big way. And I can only say banks are working towards it. We see a lot of action happening there. But the next 5 years of open banking, I'm sure a lot of action is going to happen in this space. And we will see a real open banking in a real sense. So that's where I look at it, yeah.
I think it's great fun to be the last one to speak on the same topic. But good morning, everyone. I actually think that India has a long way to go with respect to APIs. When we say API, most of us still say, hey, API means application programming interface. We are still just extending the programmer's version of it and whatever was built earlier. Literally, I would say bulk of the APIs that are around are extensions of the socket programming that was put in maybe 20 years ago. And they put wrappers around it and wrappers around it. But let's just step back and say, what does an API, why is it so exciting? What is the whole deal? Why are we having a panel discussion on such a technological topic? It's not application programming interface. It's not about that. It's a new way of delivering a service. If in a different business, I had a business, I go and set up a shop. I set up an office. And that is my interface with which I interact with the world, and I deliver a service. Right? Whoever wants, walk in, you will get a service. Fundamentally, you know what to get. If you walk into a Louis Philippe shop, you know what you will get, which means there is standardization of expectation. Right? So that's the first thing that's already missing in our entire ecosystem. Right? So that's the first. The second thing is that you are able to complete your business over there. The reason bank branches still are such a predominant channel is because if you go to a branch, whatever happens, your problem will be solved over there. But if you are on your mobile bank, on a fintech app or whatever, beyond a point they say now go to the branch, which means the service delivery is not end-to-end. And that is the state with APIs. You want to get a savings account. Great, there's an API, somebody's given it, you go. Then they'll say now go to the branch and put a signature, which means you're not delivering the end service. So the first problem is there's complete lack of standardization. Second, it's not complete. Enough breaks, broken things, etc., which means you're not delivering the service. Then what are we doing? What is this whole API? I mean, the panel spoke about so much happening on the India stack, etc. It's focused on one of those aspects, which is on the payments aspect, and taken that. By the way, it's only the front-end payments that has these classy APIs and all that. The back-end, where most all of us also deal on a daily basis, the operation, settlement, reconciliation, you get an Excel file. And now you have to sit and break your head that damn things won't match. And by the way, there's a rule that you have to solve it within harmonization of TAT and so on. And then you realize, okay, that was done. Put 100 people, get the job done, and so on. Which means there's a long way, right? So India, I would say, does not have open banking today. In part, and there are three reasons for it. One, the regulator is conservative. He's thinking about how to do. Second, and probably the biggest reason, is that our banking infrastructure is so outdated. The last piece of software that runs your credit card still runs on a mainframe machine. The last line of code on that was written in 1976. I mean, I'm not that old, so I was not born then, literally. So that's the kind of software that's running. The APIs do indeed have sockets that open up to the mainframes, etc. There are files which are being read by APIs and so on. So it's not there yet. And the third reason is that the approach to it is highly fragmented. I think it's a very good idea to therefore have a topic like this by a forum like IMAI, where we are talking at least about saying, hey, how do we do this? How do we build APIs, it's a service contract. If I tell you I will come at 9 o'clock, I should show up at 9 o'clock. I can't say I may come, I may not come, etc. That's the state of APIs. Any one of us who's trying to hit the API of a bank or a fintech knows that it's a chance. So we build failsafe on our side. Hit it 4 times, one of the times you'll get an answer. That's not the way you will build businesses, right? So the service delivery is indeed, so there's a long way to go. But I completely agree with the panel that we are all enthused, even we at Zeta are extremely excited by the amount of movement that's happening on saying, hey, let's change the status quo. I mean, I fell out of my chair when RBI announced United Lending Interface. I mean, they're not talking about payments here. They're talking about doing end-to-end digital KYC. They're talking about fraud protection or the fraud detection coming in. They're talking about underwriting coming online. This does not exist in the world. The Europeans don't have open banking of this sort. What they have is still that once a customer is in, the lifecycle management can happen via these APIs, etc. This is way out there. And literally, I wish them all the best, and I'm in their side that it should come. So I'm also enthused by the kind of work that's happening to make a change over here.
If you just continue, I'm saying, and we all, I think very well said, right? I'm saying the APIs have been used in a limited sense. That's the point which you are highlighting. Now, if you have to bring this importance to open banking, and the regulators and all have to really look at forming standards and everything, would you be able to give an example, how open banking enables with APIs an innovative customer solution, I'm saying based on your experience, so that, we can really talk about it beyond just the payments, basically.
Oh yeah, absolutely. See, so first, certain underlying fundamental shifts have to happen. For example, today, look at anyone's APIs, the Indian companies which publish APIs. There are versioned APIs. That itself tells you that they're already they're not getting the point. You don't version APIs. The fundamental shift is inversion of control. I am declaring that I have a service. I don't know what you will do with it. And yet I'm declaring I have a service. I sell you a shirt. I don't know if you will wear it, gift it, but I still sell you a shirt. And then there's a promise and a guarantee that comes, which means I should be able to exactly give you a contract, which is the first thing. And second, I should be able to do so reliably. Both of these will happen when the business and the people with the money, the P&L holders, get involved, not just the tech guys. While the tech, the API word and the extension of it, full form of it, seems to bring in all our engineers out, it's the business people who have to step in. Even in a bank, the calls have to be made at the business end to say that this is the kind of service we wish to deliver. Once that call is made, the kind of innovation that can be done, there is no end to it. Not naming the bank, but right now it's in a sort of a trial stage. They have built a high latency, low throughput, the other way around, high throughput, low latency system, which by itself does nothing. But you could feed any form of data and it is going to move it at that speed. And the kind of applications are, they're using it for fraud on one end, they're using it for rewards on the other end, they're using it even for customer registration on the other end. So when you actually build a reliable service that can scale to, say, 40,000 TPS without an issue and always do so reliably, the consumers of it can be as diverse as a rewards player, a fraud player, a payments player, who will now use that service and they say that's coming. Right? So this is happening in India as we speak. So this kind of innovation comes. Globally, if you look, there are enough and more examples of this. Not even fintech. Just look at how Twitter has come together. Right? So it is probably the largest real-time system that we have around here, more than the other social networks, largely because of how much real-time search happens on it. Right? Now, by the way, there are more applications that feed off Twitter and have built big businesses than Twitter itself does. All of it is because they have published their service. They've published exactly this is what you can expect and put a contract around it. So I think there is enough and more that can happen in this space.
These are merely a service providing APIs. Understand, the bigger challenge is how to get open banking in system, the current guidelines of RBI or the regulator.
Absolutely.
APIs are the only a communication medium between
Exactly.
banks and
Yes.
other services.
Yes.
The way we have APIs for WhatsApp or
Yes.
many other, these are only those communication channels.
Yes.
So there's always there. There's
Yes.
no the bigger challenge is how to ensure that their open banking platform or open banking regulation could be put in place.
That's why,
in the first place.
absolutely, sir. So that's why my first point is it's not a technology problem. Technology is sorted almost 15 years ago. For example, if you wish to open a bank account, there's a service declaration. I am asserting that there is not a single bank in the country which can do an end-to-end bank account opening as per all regulation completely via an API call. That declaration of service does not exist. They will open a minimum value account, then they will say we'll validate it offline. They will take 24 hours to then, so there is basically break in service. when the business teams sit down, the people who run the business sit down and say, this is the manner in which we will deliver this service. And only deliver services, that's why I was saying that all three. The regulator has to enable, the banks themselves have to upgrade their technology, and the right people have to get in their current form, on a FlexCube or a Finacle, you cannot execute this. There are so many breaks. So the point you make is absolutely valid, that API is only as good as the underlying thing. So,
moreover, API is decision making the flow.
Exactly.
Right? Otherwise,
Yes.
there would be three decision making process. One is understanding the customer requirement, choosing the right product for him, getting a document signed for him for the right product.
Yes.
While using some API, what I can do, I can ensure that I'm showing all the product to him.
Yeah.
I can ensure he's choosing the right one. And then finally, I'm getting right document signed for him. API
Yes.
is something which is, okay, this is only decision making, what do you call it, ease of decision making while doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'll give up. That's why I'll give up.
Yes. No, I absolutely agree. I think the others can
No,
also
no,
add.
definitely. I think, see, I think everybody spoke about the same point, right? And saying, do we have the standards available today for the industry participants to follow? I think that is one of the key requirement which is definitely coming up. And also, if I really request Mr. Ramkumar, if you look at, I'm saying generally APIs and the whole evolution of digital first looks to be a very retail consumer centric initiative, right? But when we are looking at India growth story, the way the government is painting, MSMEs, SMEs, some of the under, penetrated sectors, I think open banking and APIs can play a great role there. I don't know if you want to throw some lights around it.
Okay, yeah. So maybe before that, maybe I just wanted to add a point or two. Maybe it may be a counterpoint as well. See, my thought is APIs allow us to hide all the complexity, and complexity can mean legacy code or anything, and provide a great experience to my customer, right? So we provide payment APIs. We support 100+ payment methods. And whatever code might run at the end of it, it could be COBOL, it could be Fortran, it could be Scala, it could be Rust. They have a very simple API to use from any payment aggregator, right? So a decade ago, integration projects were in millions of dollars. It may take a year or 18 months and may actually fail at the end. Now our goal is to get our customers integrated in minutes, if not hours, and then go live in days, right? I think the power of the API is to innovate on top of whatever is there, and that will evolve, but we can't wait for all of it to change. And then, again, just a differing for a good discussion. And coming from the tech background, right, there are things that we say that bugs will be there, software will fail, and you have to accept that and focus on mean time to recovery rather than reducing it to zero issues, right? So just like that, right, if I can provide a much simpler, better, faster, easier API, why not? And that is what is happening, and I think that is what is spurring all of these more startups to sort of depend on these APIs to do payments, right? And our success rate is at above 90% for UPI, right? So even though, like, if you integrated with a single bank, they will have downtimes, etc. But our success rate is way higher, and all of that is because of open banking and API. And my maybe interpretation of open banking is not just the opening of the banking bank account, but the entire life cycle. And some of it is actually happening, right? While settlement still happens via Excel files, that Excel file is also an API in a way, right? So our systems actually parse the Excel file. Now LLMs have also come, and all of these are parsed in an automated way. And we are able to even offer instant settlements within 15 minutes to our merchants, right? So while those things are happening, I think we are still way ahead and marching ahead of other countries. And we can give even day zero terminals, right? Like imagine a few days back even opening an account. But now you can, if you want to start a business, on the first day you can start taking payments, right? So we have APIs to even create the terminals in some banks, right? Some banks are lagging behind, some banks are sort of catching up, but we can get people started. So So coming back to the sort of next question is on how do we enable SMEs maybe in remote areas, etc. Right? Again, India GDP is the macro number, but per capita income also has to grow, and it has to be all inclusive, right, across the board, not just in Gurgaon, great place, or Bangalore or Mumbai, but across the board. And there also, I think this open banking is coming into picture, right? So the rates, the interest rates that these small businesses in remote regions would have had to pay in the informal sector would have been usurious, right? So from there, I think bringing them into the formal lending sector is a great advancement. And now we can have sort of micro lending platforms built on top of all of this infrastructure. We can have P2P lending. And digitizing all of this enables the regulatory authorities also to regulate better, right? So whatever happened in the informal sector in a non-digital way should not be replicated when we do things digitally, right? So having the ability to do all of this in a digital manner makes the prevention of the bad guys or taking advantage of the MSMEs in remote regions, all of that is also can be improved. And the persona of people using these things in those remote regions also have to be taken into account, right? They may speak different languages, maybe voice recognition, the ability to transact using voice. I think all of that is also coming in. Biometric authentication to prevent fraud in those areas, etc. Even here, but there also. I think innovation on these factors also can bring in more and more people into the formal financial sector, and they can take advantage of whatever is available in a Mumbai or a Delhi. And I think that is what will make India's growth story even more better down the line.
I can just add to what I think Ram made some interesting points. One thing that we've seen, especially in the SME sector in India, is that today they work with across multiple banks, and it's kind of quite a broken experience to many of them today. And and account aggregation obviously is one great opportunity for us to bring all APIs across various banks to put together and create a seamless kind of experience, especially in the SME part of the sector, right? And we do see a huge amount of opportunity, especially in the payment space, in this space, because we believe it's SME obviously the backbone, and today we see really don't have those kind of experiences that we really look at it. So one is obviously that, and secondly, I think other way APIs have really made huge impact, I believe, is in financial inclusion space, especially in the Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 cities, where today you don't have those banking infrastructures in place, or you don't have the financial services in place. And while you've seen these APIs have been able to get across to there, and obviously, the JAM, the Jan Dhan account, Aadhaar, and the mobile penetration really help India to really get across to those Tier 3, Tier 4 cities. UP obviously, yes. And I think the APIs, and I think the real change that has happened, especially in the API, especially has been in the rural areas for us. I mean, urban, yes, but the rural has been where they were never there. I think they've been able to start using, especially payments, especially in fintech. I think it's been a huge impact. Yeah.
Thank you. See, I think we all acknowledge the potential, right? I'm saying there is potential. Whether it is the existing retail segment, or we are looking at unserved MSMEs, SMEs, and other sectors which are there. But Mr. Pinak, it will be great to hear from you the current challenges which are there, right? I'm saying they can also provide us a way of looking into the future and improving the whole thing to enable the true open banking as we talk about it.
Sure. Excuse me. Thank you. So before that, I would also like to put a conjecture. So when I think we discussed about failure of the APIs, right? We also need to recognize that I know possibly the experience in the banking possibly is not as great as you expect to be. For example, if you compare with Amazon-like experience. But remember one thing, when you are doing a transaction, API transaction, from your bank account to other bank account, banks are indeed debiting your account and crediting to the other bank. So I think it is slightly wrong to say that APIs require 4-time calls, right? We usually do not have that kind of an experience, right? Having said that, we know some banks, bigger banks, sometimes go through downtime, But however, I don't think, I do not really recall when last time my API transaction got struck from one bank account to other. Same thing, let me give another example. When you are passing through a toll, your FASTag is debited, right? Again, the transaction, somebody in the bank from where you have bought your FASTag is indeed debiting your account, right? And it is happening, for FASTag, it actually happens post the car goes through, but still it is real time, right? So I think we have come a pretty long way, right? Though I know, looking at the future, possibly we should have standardized it, we should have perhaps defined in the contract what is the latency, not only the payload, as we call it, meaning the data traveling, but also what is the latency, what is the TPS it can support, transaction per second. I acknowledge that, but on the other hand, I really do not want to take any credit out of this ecosystem that has really pushed India forward in terms of the digital transaction. And let's not ignore bank's role in this entire journey, right? Now, having said that, there are, in terms of challenges, apart from standardization, because I think we talked about it in detail, there are 3 S as I look at, right? 3 S's which, in my opinion, are of bigger challenges. The first S is the stability part of it, right? So as I think, very eloquently put by Shiva was that if I'm giving a service, it has to be reliable, right? If I'm saying the shop is open from 9 o'clock, then of course it has to be open, right? So though first part of my argument, I said it is working pretty well, but I think there is still a long way to go, right? So in the stability part, I look at it this way, right? So earlier we used to talk about unplanned downtime, right? Because you wanted to maintain your system, you take downtime, you inform all of your customer. Now, if you are passing through a national highway, possibly you will not appreciate unplanned downtime, right? It is a problematic for you, right? So not only the unplanned downtime, the planned downtime that is required for typical management of your system, whether you are applying patches, correcting for obsolescence, those things will have to be taken care of, and for that, technology modernization is pretty important, right? I understand APIs obfuscate the technology challenges. However, the stability you cannot deliver unless you are into a modern tech stack, right? So this is one part. The other part, my second is on the scalability side, right? So when you expose the API, imagine a situation when it is internal, consumed internally, you possibly can predict the scale of it slightly better. But the moment you expose, let's say from bank's viewpoint, and now customers are using it to take balance out of their account, and a merchant, like just taking an example, let's say Flipkart or somebody running their campaign, Billion Day or before Diwali, etc., right? So this is not in your direct control, but all of a sudden your system has to scale up to cater for that high demand, right? So scale becomes pretty important, particularly if you look at from our viewpoint, from payments bank viewpoint, right? The moment you go to rural India, there is no dearth of customer or the market that you can capture, right? So that brings another challenge in terms of scale. So, as Shiva has said, you expose an API, you wanted to make it stable, but you wanted to scale it up, and most possibly you wanted to scale it down also, because those bursty traffic will not be there throughout, right? The last S in my list is the security, right? So what kind of data going out of your ecosystem? What kind of data you are consuming? Are they encrypted properly? The guys who are using your API, have you authenticated? Are you sure? Are you certain about only the intended people or intended entity are using your service? Obviously, some sort of authentication mechanism. These become very important. And also with the DPDP role coming in, what kind of data you are sharing outside of customer, whether customer has consented for you to share this data, those becomes important. So I would say I started with 3S because 1S, I think Shiva already covered: standardization, stability, scalability, and security. These are the 4 things I think we need to resolve.
Thank you, very well said, Mr. Pinak. Anand, if I can really, I think from the audience itself, the point came that I think we all acknowledge we need standards, we need regulatory framework. Would you want to just do a bit of double click on this?
I think rightly said. I think today, classic example is, let's say today I go to a bank to take an API for account opening, for example. So let's say I go to 5 banks. Each of these banks will have a different set of API, right? When I say different set of API means the entire standardization is very different. Every bank would have, The RBI rule is the same, right? The interpretations obviously are different. And the way the API is created, the way API works is will vary from each bank to other, right? So let's say for fintech like ours, right? So we'll have to, when we're building a product, we have to take into consideration that every API is going to be different, and while we're consuming, we need to ensure that all our integration take care of the different set of APIs. So which also means is that for the same set of end result of opening a bank account, there's so much of back-end work that we would do so as to ensure to bring in uniformity, right? But if it was standardized, for example, across all sectors, and you had a set of standard rules of how each of these APIs work, then the ability to to do much more on API would increase, right? You could probably build up much more on API than what we're doing today, right? And I think that I believe at some stage, even in India, I believe the standardization has to come in. And I think this is it's a very classy way of looking at some of the things that we do, and and so much of effort that really goes behind stage to bring in all of these across. And so one is one obviously is the standardization in terms of one is that what we integrate with the banks. The second is what we integrate, what we offer it to our partners, right? While we would have bring in a lot of standards in terms of when we are offering across. Right? But again, the same thing is that if we are like 20 fintechs sitting in the room, I'm sure each one of us would have done it in a different way, right? And those standards, obviously, because there's no standards to it again, right? So everybody would have done it in a different way. So because of those standards not being there, so you have got multiple works that same APIs would be working on. And but yes, but if it was one simple rule how it has to be done, the ability to expand, the ability to really ramp up would have been much faster. So what I believe is at some stage it has to come in, right? For us to really expand, really make the best use of those APIs, and we've seen across globally some places the standardization has come in, but I think India I still believe is a very, very diverse market. It's not as easy as it sounds, but yes, if that happens, it will make life much more easy, especially on the API front. Yeah.
Thank you. I know, topics like this will require much more than the time we have. I think we are towards the end of our session. Just in, like 30 seconds each one of you, if you can just say, what should be the key milestone going forward, right, for this next evolution to happen? Maybe we can start from you and then just complete it.
Yeah. No, so I think a lot of motion, as I started, a lot of work is already underway. So I think we will see it all come together. And interestingly, the government, the regulator is taking lead in it. It is both encouraging and very scary. I don't want the principal of the school coming and sitting in my exam and writing and all that, right? So at the same time, it's also encouraging because they're going to sort it. I mean, if they're participating, it's that. So I think the key milestone will be largely to see how it evolves. Do they come down in a quasi-controlling manner? Do they come down in a guidance and policy manner? I hope it's the latter. There are indications to say they might operate in that way. And frankly, it's good that the government is taking this because the problems India faces are very, very different. Right? I spent a long time as a management consultant. One of my clients was a PSU, a public sector unit. They were implementing an ERP. Just as an anecdote, I'm sharing this. And we had made a bunch of recommendations on how you're going to be digitized and a bunch of things. I mean, all the stuff that we speak about here. This was back in 2010. When I was speaking to one of the accountants there, he was extremely happy. He said, yes, this is fantastic. I said, what's the best thing about it? He said, and he said this actually in Bengali, but he more or less said, sir, first, in order to get a particular file approved, it had to go from Calcutta, it had to go to Lucknow for some reason, and then from there it had to go to Delhi. And then after it is signed, it had to come back on the same route because it's a physical file. Now with this ERP system in place, as soon as it is approved, I immediately get it. I mean, for all our MBAs, fancy degrees and all that, we didn't see that as a problem, right? So it was not visible to us. So the problems that India faces, we spoke about rural India, etc. The problems that India faces, Bharat faces, are indeed very different. I mean, the settlement files, you only have to pinch us. I mean, at night to make us cry about the settlement files. No one can say that they are thrilled about it, right? So regardless, I mean, you would have done work to sell it to others, but you are taking the pain on their behalf, and so on. So there are many problems which are uniquely us. The data is not clean. I mean, till today, IRCTC does not give you surcharge back properly. I mean, it's things like that happen. So the next milestone, I'm extremely enthused that the regulators and the government are stepping in to help design this. Definitely are bureaucrats. I mean, I give them full credit in saying they understand the problems of this country and they are not taking it any other way.
I think quickly. I think yes. As I said, this is the era for open banking. So era for APIs, right? I don't think anything can exist. Keeping that in mind, right? I think we can't escape it. There may be challenges, but I think they will have to overcome if we really need to ramp up. I'm very confident that things will all fall in place much better than what it is. And so at least quite excited. The next 10 years is going to be a great time. Yeah. Thank you.
30 seconds. Okay, counting. So I would only say that I'm pretty enthusiastic about this sharing of capabilities and consuming capabilities by others. Standardization and other 3 or 4 S's that I talked about obviously will help. But I think the ecosystem has got some acceleration. Of course, you could have, if you have designed it today, maybe you will do it slightly differently. But as Shiva has said, that with regulators coming in, government bodies coming in, I only see this space growing and making ecosystem more and more stronger.
Yeah, if I had to pick one thing, maybe we've taken slow and steady steps on the digital currency. Maybe down the thing, if we can get that really, really right, then a lot of things will be solved, right? So I'll just keep it that, given the 30 seconds. And I would like whatever has happened in open banking to be replicated in maybe other domains. Like if we had open healthcare, like NPCI, if I had NHCI, and or in the real estate sector where everything is like transparent and thing. I think if we can replicate this in other domains, that would be a great success for all of us in India.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It has been great interaction with all of you. Hope it has been kind of a session where the audience has also taken points. Ultimately, it's all about collaboration in the industry. It's not just about the people on the panel or on the dais. It's the whole industry which has to collaborate to make this happen. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much.